One, like we are saying that there's this idea of poor farmers, but we are keeping prices depressed so that people like us can eat cheaply. So if you had the magic wand, and I'm passing it to you now, that on priority, if you were going to shift something, would it be to natural farming? Would it be to different kinds of farming, diversified crop, maybe corporates entering into the farming space to help scale up farming? Let's start with the corporate question, and then I'll leave you with the wand. That will corporates coming into the farming sector be a good thing or bad thing? It's a very divisive question.
No, it's not divisive at all. I think so there is space for everyone, and every kind of player has to be in the market. We want a choice of people who are going to buy from us. So I'm not against the private sector, I'm not against the corporates, but allowing them in unregulated space where they're not regulated, there's no transparency, there's no accountability, that's the problem. So it's always the fine print that is the problem. But I want to answer your question of what is required. Much of what is required on the farm does not happen on the farm, it happens in policy space. Now, George Soros has been in news. Bill Gates is in town today, and I know he's speaking to government officers today. These are the kind of people who should not be allowed to influence policy. That's the key point. Because you look at agriculture research, there was a CGIAR system with 7 or 8 institutes. Now Bill Gates funds all of them. Now, the key question is, if you want to solve problems, you've got to go to the root cause of where policies are being made and not discuss कि natural farming करना है, कि fertilizer डालना है, कि pesticide डालना है. Those things are where they take us. The other thing we need to do is not look at successful states. We got to document failures. We got to document failures. Now you talked about Punjab, because I'm from Punjab, I can't help but respond. If a government is going to give 80% of a population of a state is going to get free residential electricity, 100% of the farmers are going to get free electricity for tube well water, what do you think will happen to the state's development? So everything that comes free has a cost. And last point I want to say very clearly is, what's problem with the farm policy is, of all the multinational consultancy firms sitting in state government offices, sitting in Niti Aayog, sitting in the agriculture ministry, telling Indians how to, govern India, how to make policies and telling us what to do. We need to build capacity of our officers. We need to build capacity in the states. It's really bad. I mean, we need to look at human capacity building, human resources, rather than look at physical infrastructure. So there's a lot that needs to change. And you were asking initially, one of the words you put is, what are the gaps? I think so the gaps are the good points, the small gaps which are good that we help talk about. But most of the thing is really not even gray matter, it's really bad. So are we optimistic? Are we pessimistic? We are pessimistic that we are pessimistic of what's happening, but I as a farmers are optimistic. I'm optimistic that things will change, and we will be able, yes, we'll sow again. If we can change the leadership, we can make a difference. And we can make a difference, and because this is connected to the French Institute, I would say as Indian farmers, protests of French farmers in Paris resonate with what we did in India. And as French farmers supported Indian farmers, I think we support French farmers protesting on streets of Paris. It sounds fantastic every time I read it. So I just want to put that across to all the friendship.
I was going to end this one. Julia, I think you have a conspiracy against me now. I'm going to try and shut up. I'm going to speak less and less because the mic is clearly at war with me. But Meghla, you wanted to say something. I just want to point out, you said something beautiful, Ajay, and it really fits with the Night of Chef and Ideas that, no matter what is happening to farmers, and they're like, I'm amazed when we say 40,000 farmers commit suicide, and we don't blink an eye on that. Once, when I was at Tehelka, we did a cover story where I said, imagine if tomorrow morning you woke up and you said, 40,000 lawyers in the country committed suicide this year, Would we take that? We would say 40,000 corporate heads committed suicide this year. Would we be as blank as we are when we say 40,000 farmers have committed suicide? It's amazing, that, I think it's 11,000, sorry, it's 40,000 over some years. It doesn't matter, the number is not important, it's the fact that we don't react to this. So in the face of that, like Ajay said, that we sow again and again and again, and there's optimism in sowing again. I think that's a fantastic thought to stay with, Ajay. And I'll leave you to have the last word.
No, I think just to add to that, sense of sowing again and again. I think there is nothing like also our understanding of these practices that also should really fuel our political imagination. You began with imagination, and I think we've had a healthy dose of reality also in this conversation. But there's a there's a close relationship between engaging deeply with things and having an imagination. And one of the most powerful things that came from the Mandi floor, since we were talking about democracy at the beginning, was Rukmani Bai, who is the sweeper of the Mandi floor. She collects the grain that falls after the auction, but couldn't vote 1 year. And I said to her, why are you unhappy? Because, you know, things haven't changed in all these years that you voted. And she said, how can you ask me that? Every day I run behind every grain that falls because I know one grain changes the weight of the heap. Cannot one vote change the fate of a government? And I think those are the kinds of imaginations, people who work with grain, who grow it, who engage with it, who work with it, who store it, and who bring it to all of us, deal with every day, and they can give us imaginations about the possibilities of our own politics and our own engagements in our everyday worlds.
I just want to, I want to say that there's a great myth, and something that you also said is we have surplus food grain in India. Let me very clearly tell you, there is no surplus food grain in India. It's people can't afford more nutritious meals. That's why food goes waste. So for farmers to progress, the country's economy needs to do well. And that's the key point. There's no surplus food grain. So every time you hear about surplus being thrown, it's because consumers can't afford more. So it's a systems approach where everything is linked to each other, and farmers can't progress on their own. People living in cities have to get more pay, employment, salaries, and that's how farmers will get more money. I mean, government can't do everything. Government can't buy our food and stuff like that.
Yes, I'm so glad you said that, the idea of more, and I'm glad you corrected me, because actually I didn't make that connection there. When we say that we have surplus food and at the same time we are saying there are 220 million people who are undernourished, it does not make sense. There's a total gap. It's a breakdown in logic right there. So thank you for pointing that out. Thank you, all of you, for this absolutely wonderful, thought-provoking session. Thank you. We're going to have a tasting session. We need to take a picture. I'm so sorry.